One area I still need clarity on for myself and likely others is the partitioning of making ketones from body fat versus dietary fat. And as people become more metabolically healthy, how that shifts. Because a common question, somebody new to this could be, I'm putting in all this fat. How is my body ever going to start making ketones from my own body fat? So talk about early on versus later on as we become more metabolically healthy, how the body creates ketones from those two different pools.
Yeah, I mean, at that first season, I don't have any restrictions of how much they eat, how often they eat, just what they eat. Okay, so it's a high fat, the fat goes in, the carbs are so low relative to what they've been doing, so this is a big drop, that we drop the insulin and we open up fat cells. So we change the endocrine formula. And then they go through those 6 weeks and they get to that part where they stop, they missed a meal. Like, oh, I just wasn't hungry. Okay, now I know they have fat-based hormones in circulation, and now I'm going to ask you to be more disciplined, that you only get to eat 2 times a day. Calories go through the pie hole twice a day. And even non-calories, that I call it a bolus of food, meaning you put something in your mouth, whether that's got stevia in it with no calories or not, I don't care, 2 times a day, 2 settings a day. And those 2 stay stable until you don't screw that up for at least 7 days straight. So, okay, 2 boluses of food. Now, I'm going to put them in an 8-hour period. Find 8 hours where you don't screw that up. So what's happening here is we've got now time-restricted eating. We've got, you make insulin with mastication when you chew. So this means Tic Tacs, gum, whatever are you doing here, you're insulin resistant. You're not the healthy guy. You're the insulin resistant guy. So don't put that in there. You have 2 boluses of food. So now I know the distance between these 2 meals is no more than 8 hours, which leaves 16 on the outside. So that's 16 hours where your body's going to have to open up some fat cells to keep the resources available. So as we now tick away at these behaviors that crept into your life because of abundance and living in a time where processed foods are everywhere and it was easy to eat every 2 hours, you're going to come to your first funeral and say, but you got to have the funeral potatoes. That's part of like the dead guy's contract with life. I was going to eat his funeral potatoes. And so there's these places where the rules of how well can you keep that rule of 2 boluses of food in an 8-hour period. And so what am I doing? I'm restricting their intake. Now we're going to move it towards morning because the endocrine system still matters. And not only do I need that 16 hours of no eating, maybe I need 18 hours of no eating. And that morning dawn effect is like their first meal. That cortisol, when the sun rises, hits that liver, releases that glucose. And even though you didn't have a bite, your blood sugar went up. And it wasn't 5 points like it was in the healthy guy. It's 15 points, 10 points, 20 points. And that's the start of eating a meal. That's where you're like, oh, shoot. Okay, so he opened up the gate at 7 o'clock in the morning. Now I need those 2 boluses of food to be before 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So, I mean, those are the parameters to say you have to stay ahead of the endocrine. And the endocrine is pathologic. It's doing stuff it shouldn't have done. But that was the consequence of an excessive amount of insulin for 20 years. To get it back down and then not default back up to where you were is until you're at your lean body mass for that same stable weight for what appears to be at least 5 years. These are your rules.
And given the patients you've worked with and yourself, somebody that gets to that 5-year period, are they pretty metabolically similar to somebody who was never metabolically broken?
Yeah, that's the part. That part I have more confidence in than even like Ben Bickman, an expert in mitochondrial disease with insulin resistance. He's a glass half full kind of guy. He's going to say, I think you can reverse it. I think you can reverse it too. But it's a stinker. It's hard. And looking at the equation of, well, what does it look like to have insulin resistance gone? Well, when you go to eat, your blood sugar is 85 before you eat. at the 30-minute mark, your blood sugar never got above 140. Most of my healthy patients, it got to about 120. By the time it's been an hour since you started eating, it's never above 130. And again, most of my healthy patients is lower than that. By the 90-minute mark, you're down to 110. And by 2 hours, you're back to baseline, which is somewhere around 90 blood sugar. If you've ever worn a CGM, that is hard to do. That is hard to do.
Somebody that's regained their metabolic health, obviously there's a lot of different benefits to ketosis, brain health, anti-inflammatory. We could go on and on. But do you feel there's room for carbs when somebody is totally healthy again?
Yeah. I mean, I look at the basic energy expenditure. Like if they're burning it, it's great. But getting to the part where the calories don't get to count if the endocrine is still the tidal wave. If you are still under a blanket of insulin, you don't get to play by those rules. Your calorie stuff doesn't count. You are in the endocrine jail. You've got too much of that hormone. So I don't care if it's one bite of an apple, which would have been one of the things I might have eaten at my house when I was not losing weight. That one bite, I'm fine. I make a lot of insulin when that happens. And how do I know? Look what happened when I stopped. Yeah. I wish it wasn't true, but it is.
So for you, you're still in the middle of the journey.
Yeah. And I'm okay there. I think one of the differences between a man or a lady in recovery of alcoholism, and they get to this season where the newbie comes into class and the newbie says, "What do you mean you can never have a beer again?" And the one who's not arrived says, "Yeah, it'll be okay though." And they're very stressed about it. And the other one's like, "Yeah, but this life is so much better." I mean, I do think of that as I love food. I clearly love food. And I probably used it as a place of escape or comfort, like any normal human being did. But the price I paid was a health profile that I have buried a lot of them, with autoimmune disorders, with brain injuries, with setbacks that I mean, this life is better. I don't miss it.
If you enjoyed that clip, you're going to want to head over here and catch a full episode. I'll see you over there.
Your physician is never going to care this much. They're not going to study you this much. You have to study you this much. That morning fasting blood sugar, when it only gets to 95 in the morning, you got problems. That's not normal. Yes, you're healthy.